Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing a rather highly requested topic, that being the Temtem Chromeon and its various forms, how they work, and where to locate it. I'm going to touch on the moves that are exclusive to each of the forms, as well as each one has a unique moveset which revolves around its secondary typing. That said, sit back, relax, and let's dive right in. Okay, so Chromeon, as we discussed in our Every New Digital Type Temtem Explained video, is a very intriguing creature, which is a result of experimenting with Koish DNA. This creature will always have a primary digital typing, however can have 11 alternate secondary typings, as well as a mono-digital type, making for 12 variants in total. For starters, you can locate every single form in the same location, being in this spot in the Pillars of High Above, which, while convenient, I do feel like is a bit of a missed opportunity to have some more variance amongst the different areas within the game, as you could sort of fill up older areas with Chromeon variants as well to sort of compensate for the lower total count of Temtem. Now, 160 plus is great, but we do see a much smaller pool of creatures in each area, just like we see in the original Pokemon games. Anyways, with my opinion on that aside, Chromeon is really interesting, with it being kind of weak in terms of its base stat total, but having a couple interesting traits to make up for it. Sinner Typer will boost the power of its techniques as long as you share a type with your ally, and Pigment Inverter reverses the enemy resistances when attacking. This, coupled with the many different forms of typings that it can have, makes it, again, really interesting. Every variant of this Tem gets access to the same moves up until the final two, which are learned at levels 42 and then 55. So we're going to be looking at those specifically. TCs remain the same across the board as well, so breaking the differences down is actually quite simple. All Chromeon learn a Torrent technique at level 42 as well that goes alongside a specialization type. So for example, the digital neutral Chromeon gets neutral Torrent, the water one, water Torrent, etc. These techniques are all standard single targeting special attacks that have a base power of 65 with 2 priority. The exception to this is Neutral Torrent, which has a base power of 85, likely to compensate for its lack of any sort of type advantage. Where it gets really interesting is the final attack that each Chromeon learns, as each of these vary, some having synergy, some not, a variety of base powers, and priorities are present as well. Alright, so we're going to break all these down. For starters, we got the Digital Chromeon, which gets access to Digi Threat, which is a high power special attack. By the way, all the attacks are special attack, with a low priority that synergizes with mental types in order to doom enemies for 3 turns. The Digital and Neutral variant gets access to Undermine, which is also a high power attack, this time with a regular priority, and it leaves the foe with a single stage down in special attack. The Digital Wind type gets access to Blizzard, a technique most are familiar with. It's a low priority, high damage special attack with no special caveat. The Digital Earth type form gets access to Dust Vortex, another high damaging special attack, this time with a regular priority and also functioning as just a high power move. The Digital Water variant gets access to Water Cannon, a technique when coupled with Toxic type allies will poison your enemies for 2 turns. It has regular priority. The Digital Fire type variant gets access to Hellfire, which is interesting. Basically, this attack targets both foes and hits for a moderate amount of damage. It can further be synergized with another Fire type to enact 2 turns of burn and a slight increase to base power. The Digital Nature variant gets access to Resin Trap, which does a large amount of special damage and traps the foe for 2 turns. The Digital and Electric variant gets access to Thunder Strike, a very powerful electric attack that leaves the user exhausted after it hits. The Digital Mental variant gets access to Gamma Burst, a very strong attack that leaves the foe exhausted for 2 turns. It comes with a very hefty stamina price, however. The Digital Melee variant comes with the attack Inner Spirit, which is a very high damaging melee type attack with no secondary effect. The Digital Crystal variant gets access to Crystal Deluge, which damages a foe and then leaves them isolated for 2 turns. This can then be synergized with a mental ally to inflict the sleep status and gain a higher priority. And finally, last but not least, the Digital and Toxic variant gets access to Venom Spread, which deals a large amount of damage at a low cost, provided the enemy is poisoned. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much all there is to it. Chromeon is a very interesting Temtem with a simple yet meaningful distinction between its forms. I'm pretty curious to see which forms end up being the better ones and which fall to the bottom in terms of competitive rankings. I'm sure there will be many different variables that play into which one end up on top and which on the bottom, and I'm definitely interested to see the result. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on the whole Chromeon situation and which forms you like. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe for daily monster taming content. You can also follow me on Twitter at GymLeaderEd and check out our monster taming Discord. All links will be in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.